Hello, Meredith.
Hello. Okay.
Welcome to
Welcome to OGs.
Podcast without a theme song.
Yet.
That's one thing I don't know how to do.
OGs.
Why does it sound like a hymn?
That's what we were. No, we were at Dylan, my boyfriend's sister's house, and they live right by Little Flower Catholic Church. And so at 6 p.m., the bells started playing What Wondrous Love Is This? Like, I had a couple margaritas, and I just started singing, and everyone was looking at me like, why do you know all the words to this?
We should do like a remix of we should do like a hymnal OGs. Like, that should be our intro.
Ooh, yeah.
Like with a choir.
Organ.
Like a Motab. You think we can get Mormon Tabernacle Choir in here? We do call it Motab.
Let's get a Motab mashup. That's Missouri Baptist.
Yeah.
For those
which is
who
a
don't live in
hospital.
St. Louis. It's also a university.
Oh, yeah, that too.
So they probably do have a choir we could
Solicit.
solicit.
We could just ask our kids
Yeah.
choir.
Yeah.
Ask Eleanor, and she'd be like, "Yeah, I'll record all the parts."
Right. She probably could.
Yeah, we're like, "Oh man." Yes. So welcome. I'm Kelsey Quinlan.
I'm Meredith Hopping. Coffee. I haven't had enough coffee today.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is episode 6. 6, yeah. 6 or 5 or 6. 6 or 7. You decide.
What did it say?
Whatever
on the
it
thing
says,
that you clicked.
on the thing. That's
is episode. What it is.
Beep.
Beep beep.
And we're gonna talk about vacations today.
The good, the bad, the
trendy.
Ooh. I don't think I've ever been on a trendy vacation in my life.
Nope. I was raised Mormon. I have never been on a trendy vacation in my life.
No.
I haven't gotten the chance to venture to this in my stand-up, but I would like to talk about how most of my vacations have been centered around Mormon religious historic sites in America.
Really?
Which is just a hilarious thing. Religious historic sites in America just sounds like...
I mean, but people do it for historical sites. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but just a religious historic site, it's I
feel like a lot of our history is embedded with religion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it all just kind of...
I think Mormons, Joseph Smith didn't have a Travelocity agent, so he couldn't travel abroad very easily. So he's like, how can we make it work for our budget? We're a new church. We got a small budget. And then they're like, tithing 10% from all of your pockets.
Speaking of small church budget, this doesn't really have anything to do with vacations, but so my ex-husband's church, when we started it, a friend of ours did the logo for it. And it's a very specific logo. And it's not there's no whatever. You could Google this so easily. The church's name is Harmony. And so the logo is a circle and then 3 waves that create the harmony / also, I'm sure, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now...
Oh my God, I get it, because they're 3 different waves, but they're all one ocean.
One sound.
That too.
Anyway, and also a very specific font.
Oh, sound waves, not waves.
Sound waves. Because it's harmony.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. I thought it was waves
no,
beach.
it wasn't beach waves.
The ocean.
So...
Vacation. It would loop back in very nicely.
One of the things my ex-husband holds very strongly to is that I am mentally ill. And so...
We're off to a great start.
We kept talking about, our topics. They are too deep. We want to make sure not to go too deep. We'll do vacations. And then we're going to go on a different journey for a moment. So
a journey nonetheless.
I'm not mentally ill as much as any of us are mentally ill. I have generalized anxiety and take medication for that.
Most people just call it anxiety, but you're like, no, it's generalized anxiety. That way you know it's an official diagnosis.
Well, and it's also situational, like it's situationally induced, which I think is also everyone's anxiety. Anyways, so
for those of you listening in, that was me locking it up and throwing away the key so as not to comment anything. I almost said taciturn, but that's the wrong. Out of turn is the correct word.
So I'm visiting my parents in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, and I am driving down Veterans Parkway, the main thoroughfare.
I said R.I.P.
And I look up and literally the Harmony logo and font is up on a billboard, the exact font. And the O is the 3 sound waves for a Korean barbecue called Harmony Korean Barbecue.
They Googled Harmony and they're
right. No. And so I was just like, he was right. That I'm having a mental break. Like I'm seeing. And then I quickly Googled and found out I wasn't. Looks like some graphic designer was real lazy because I'm betting they Googled Harmony and Korean. And there's a Korean congregation that uses Harmony's building, which means like that's going to come up in.
Oh, yeah. So he just like.
And probably figured, oh, St. Louis, no one's going to compare it to a church in St. Louis, Missouri. I did.
And she thought she was having a mental break. So
I thought it was happening. It wasn't. Meredith, I feel like maybe I should get a gift certificate. If you're listening, Harmony Korean Barbecue.
Yeah. Maybe they can do your mom's bereavement. They can sponsor it. That's
what I legitimately, I don't think you were here for this, Kelsey, but I was talking to her like, well, what are the things you want at the funeral?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was like, do you want people to wear black? Sometimes people say, no, please don't wear black. Wear bright colors. Like at my friend Sam's dad's funeral, it was wear bright colors. That's more representative of who he was. And she was like, I just don't want anyone to wear jeans to my funeral. And I was like, Mom, you live in central Illinois.
It's going to happen.
Someone's wearing jeans. Someone is wearing jeans to your funeral.
There are people that wear jeans to go snowboarding in central Illinois. So,
right.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone wears jeans.
It's kind of like when Meredith had a comedy roast for herself. Just less than a year ago, I was like, are there any topics that are off limits? And she's like, it just has to be funny. She's like, no lazy jokes, and it has to be funny. Those were the only requirements.
No lazy jokes.
Yeah. And some people did not follow the instructions.
It is what it is.
I think people think
Reggie Edwards didn't follow instructions.
He did not.
His joke was that I had saggy tits.
Yeah.
And I don't.
And he was like, prove it.
Yeah. He said, then show me.
And I was like, if you wanted to see Meredith's tits, that was the way to get her to do it. That would have been the way to do it.
I'll show you.
Right.
I don't have saggy tits.
Exactly. Randy has Randy just walked back in. He has zero context of what we were talking about.
Especially after breastfeeding 3 children. I'm quite proud of the State of the Union.
Oh, my.
They're not really a union. They're 2 separate entities.
What's her name? Lauren Bobbitt. Is that her name?
Lorena Bobbitt?
Is that her name? Yeah. Who's the Lorena?
Cut off.
If your tits are unified, or the State of the Union, if that's the state of your tits, you're like, you said the State of the Union.
Right.
And I'm like, then who's the Lorena Bobbitt?
What? Why does that
topical.
She cut off her
During the
husband's penis.
Wait.
No, wait.
No, the one that cut off.
This may be a generational thing. Okay, so you're thinking of the congresswoman that cut off Joe Biden.
Yeah, what's his
the State of the Union?
Yeah, wasn't her name
You said
Is it the same?
Lorena, and I immediately think of Lorena Bobbitt. Do you even know who Lorena Bobbitt is? You don't, do you?
I don't think
she
so.
cut off her husband's penis.
He probably had it coming.
I mean,
Well,
not
not
anymore.
You can tell you're in a room full of comedians when we all went there. We're like,
That's hilarious.
I'm
It
gonna look
was
up
her
her
name Lorena?
I thought it was. I thought it was.
But that's hilarious that you were also saying because she cut him off.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, am I insane?
Anyways. My mom doesn't want people to wear jeans to her funeral. That's
That's the takeaway.
that's the
From this.
takeaway.
Of course, of course, it's not a right away. I'll go to the Daily Show because they did a joke about it. Ugh.
Anyways,
It's this bitch.
But what's her name?
I-
Don't call no.
It's like a colloquialism, and I mean, I think I'm gonna venture a guess and say she earned it. I mean, she's right next to Marjorie
She
Taylor
did
Greene.
because she voted against veterans
Yeah,
right after that childlike fit she threw. I have no idea.
I don't know what her name is.
It doesn't
I'm kinda
matter, but
glad.
she's not Lorena Bobbitt. But maybe we make that meme comparing the two of them.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. I mean, I'm glad that the internet's not like giving her attention about it.
Right.
So,
That is good.
I'm glad. Anyways, vacations.
Vacations. What's your earliest vacation
my
memory?
earliest vacation memory? I have loose memories of when I was like 4 or 5-ish. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that when I was 6, my family left me to go to Utah, and I had to stay with like my nana and my aunt, and so it was fine. But they all left for a wedding, and they left me behind
Oh.
because I had school. It was preschool. Maybe it was normal school. I don't know. I'm still better, obviously. But then before that, like that I don't remember, we drove out to Utah and then all the way to California, Disney's California Adventure. And the only thing I really remember is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Okay.
And I only remembering that when I was in Florida on the Pirates. I'm like, I've seen this before, but I've never been here. And my grandma's like, we went to California Adventure when you were like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's weird because I don't remember it, but I remember it. I remember like weird parts we went to when we were in Utah. We went to the Mormons have visitor centers at all of their
Okay.
temples. So like common folk can't go into the temple.
Like me.
You have to have a temple. You can at least get in the front door, but then they'll stop you at the desk and they'll be like, in the softest voice, they'll be like, hello, are you here for a session? Anyways, so
Special underwear.
that we don't really get them there. They actually have them at the distribution center, which it all sounds like a book, like like a dystopian reality type thing. But you have to show your temple recommend that you get through like all these channels so you can buy the special underwear.
Did
Yeah.
you ever get special underwear? No.
I never went through the process in the temple.
Okay.
Usually women do it when they get married or if they go before they go on a mission, and then men do it usually when they go on a mission or they get married, depends on if
The
they go on a
timing.
mission. You have to be a certain age usually. Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, so they have a visitor center, which is usually some amount of distance away from the temple,
Mm-hmm.
wherever it's convenient. Well, and Nauvoo, which is where the Mormons were originally ran out
Mm-hmm.
of Illinois.
Eleanor was born very close to there
Oh, really?
in Carthage.
In Carthage. Yep.
Yeah.
We did talk about that. I forgot. That was like the first thing your dad said to me. Eleanor was born in Carthage. when he found out I
Speaking
was
of
Mormon.
Mormons.
When he found out I was Mormon, he was like, Carthage. That's where Joseph Smith's life ended.
Yep.
But And so they already had a visitor center because there was a temple there, and then the mobs burned it down. Like right after they finished it. It's sad, but it's also funny. Like they knew it was happening. Like they knew they were going to get run out of town, but they're like, we're going to finish it and persevere. And they did. And then it got broken. So, there goes all that tithing. And, but so when I was young, I remember they have like this at the Salt Lake City, because the Salt Lake City temple is the biggest one.
It's the mothership.
And it's gorgeous. It's huge. They also have like a conference center, which is where MOTAB performs, Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And I have they have this huge statue of Christ called Christ the Redeemer, which is, but it's not the like, it's like his hands are like this, and he's very like, and he's looking down at you, and he's giant and white. Because in America, we like to. In America, we like to.
That.
Well, that wasn't Joseph that made that one. That would have probably been one of the other.
But like the idea of white Jesus.
I also think he didn't know any better. But he was like, yeah, we're in America. Most of us are white. So I bet Jesus was white. And then he's like, and then even the fact that they're like, yeah, Jesus came to this land. He's probably white. Because everyone here before we were here was white, right? So Jesus was white? I feel like that's the logic. Like didn't even make a jump to like, even if we didn't jump the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
We just stayed central to like what is now America. Like it was not white people here.
Nope.
But somehow we ended up with white Jesus. I wonder what the story is there.
Jesus.
I wonder what the story is there. But that's the first vacation I remember, and I barely remember it. The picture, like he's very haunting, but also like beautiful. So you're like, you feel very reverent, the need to be reverent.
Yeah.
And I feel like I saw someone because we were visiting a family member maybe that, or like a friend from church that moved to Utah, and I like ran to them, and my grandpa got mad.
Because you ran
because I was running
the statue?
in front of Christ. How dare I? In the visitor center. That's a place you should be able to just run it out.
Yeah, no, kids running in church is a big yes for me.
Yeah, I'm like, let them be kids.
And I've pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially when I was a pastor, and the kids would come back in from Sunday school, a group of kids, and I'd encourage them to run up and down the aisle and up in the all of it. Like, if you don't want kids to be comfortable here, then are you just waiting to die?
Right. Exactly.
And not giving a crap about what happens to this after that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
what's your first vacation that you remember? If you can?
My first is Dollywood.
Back when it was still Dollywood?
Yeah.
Like, because it's changed, right? Is it still Dollywood?
I have no idea.
No, I'm thinking Opryland. No. I'm so confused by what
There's also Opryland.
Because there's Opryland. That's the mall, right?
Kind of.
But I think Dollywood's still a thing.
Dollywood, I think, is still a thing. And I remember I still do this to some degree, but I think I was about 4, and there were all over Dollywood, they would have like bluegrass bands, right?
Oh,
like
sure.
different things. And like we were at a sit down one, and one of the I think it was the banjo player was like, why isn't anyone dancing? Even though there's no room to, right? Like, obviously we're not going to dance. There's no room to dance. And I was like, yeah. And I took off and ran up to the stage and got on the stage and started dancing.
And they're like, okay.
Yeah. And they just were like, okay, I guess that's happening.
And Meredith was just living.
Someone wants people to dance.
And you're like,
I don't understand.
I can make that happen for you. Do you remember anything else from, did you go to Nashville just to go to Dollywood?
It's not in Nashville.
Oh, is there another one somewhere else?
It's
or is
like
there
it's in Tennessee.
One? So it's like outside.
Well, I guess Nashville is as well.
Tennessee?
Let's look this up real quick. No, it's like in the Smoky Mountains, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought there were 2, but maybe there's just one, and I assumed it was in Nashville.
But it was pretty great.
It
was that, and then our let's see, Pigeon Forge.
Pigeon Forge, yeah.
So yeah, Smoky Mountains.
My stepdad loves Pigeon Forge a lot. Any mountains, he's down.
Mountains.
Yeah.
It was that, and then every single year for a long time, we would go to Santa Claus, Indiana.
Oh, I've heard tell.
I loved it.
I would die. It'd be so much fun.
And Holiday World.
Holiday World, yeah. My family, when I lived with my grandparents, we took a trip to Nashville. I don't remember why. I feel like there was a specific purpose, but we went with my grandparents' couple friend, Marsha and Roger, and because they have one of their kids lived in Nashville,
Okay.
and so we went to church because like you can go to Mormon church anywhere.
Yeah,
They have them. This is a John Mulaney joke, but he's like, they have them out of town because he grew up Catholic and his wife is Jewish. His ex-wife was Jewish, and she'd be like, "What did you do if you went out of town?" He's like, "They have them out of town. Like you could just go anywhere."
Yeah, that's the way it is with Methodist churches.
Yeah,
that was a big part of vacation. Was like, oh, we'll go visit this Methodist church.
Yeah, scope out the competition, right? Just kidding. But anyways, at that Mormon church, I had to go to I think I was having a coughing fit.
Oh, that's church. That is
in
the
a prayer.
worst.
Someone was doing a prayer, and so I stood up, and my grandma pulled me back down. But I think I was holding in the cough, so I was trying not to interrupt. And because like I used to be so self-conscious about cough. I mean, now I'm self-conscious for a different reason. Why we're like, it's just to tickle folks. But she like pulled. She's like, "You do not," and I was like, and she's like, "Okay, go to the bathroom." Like she was like, "You do not get up in the middle of a prayer," and I was just like. Dying from holding in a cough. That was, and we went to the mall. That was when I was a big fan of Big Dogs, like the brand.
Woof, woof.
Oh yeah, like with the Saint Bernard.
Yeah,
and
those are expensive.
Every time she came back, Grandma would bring me one.
Oh,
and
I was a big fan of No Fear shirts.
Oh, nice. Can't say I ever had one
He
of
who
those.
dies with the most toys still dies. That was my favorite. I'm not kidding.
I wish you still had
And then
that.
there were hypercolor shirts. You're probably too young for those. You could like just press on them and they would change color.
Oh, wow. We had that kind of with the like, like the vinyl decals that they would sew on. They had some of those were like color changing, I think. We've talked about those decaled shirts and how we used to layer t-shirts under dresses.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing it again.
I know. And now it's like in. I was like.
Modesty t-shirts.
I know. It's weird. It's
baby doll tees.
Baby doll tees. Right. There's a fine line between how we were forced to be modest. And so when we first said vacation, what vacation came to mind that you can share on air?
I mean, obviously, like there's a lot. I've gotten to travel a lot, and that is my privilege, and I'm thankful for it. Now all I can think of is Jane Campion and all her BS.
Oh my God. Oh,
that's not what you do with privilege.
To work harder than you have, and they're like, and her face was like, was it Serena that they showed in the audience?
I don't know.
I think it was Serena, and she was just like,
and Venus and Serena are great, but you don't have to play against the boys like I do.
Yeah, you don't have to work as hard. I'm like,
shut the up.
Like literally, Serena has been called out for everything she has done. Anytime she gets emotional, just a little bit.
Right.
Anytime she wears clothes they don't like.
No.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh yeah, I saw
privilege rant. Privilege sidebar. I think one of the funniest is for sure my honeymoon.
Oh yeah. Classic.
For one, I didn't know where we were going until we got to the airport. Like that was part of the surprise.
Did anybody know where you were going?
Yes. Yeah. Nate and
he didn't just plan it on the fly.
I mean, it's also not hard to find out who my ex-husband is. I
right.
guess.
I mean,
whatever.
I'm not saying anything bad.
So we went to the Virgin Islands pretty hilariously. And it was so funny. I remember, we were only 21.
Right.
And so babies, just little bitty babies.
So glad you could drink at your own wedding.
We didn't have alcohol at it.
Oh, right.
There was a champagne toast, and that was it.
There was alcohol at my wedding, but I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
So I feel
Being
you.
a woman. Being a woman.
Right. I was just like, I want to get sloshed.
But it was all inclusive. It was like this all inclusive fancy St. Thomas resort, and it was gorgeous and amazing. And so I would get
which can only describe certain things on Meredith's honeymoon.
Yeah, I went and would go to get mango smoothies, and they'd be like, and rum, and I'm like, it's 9 a.m. Like, no. And they were just so confused that I wouldn't want rum in it because it was all inclusive. And I'm like, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I can't. I've only had so much alcohol in my life. And then I got a urinary tract infection and couldn't do anything.
Brought to you by amoxicillin.
I couldn't get antibiotics because we weren't in America.
And they didn't have the cheap antibiotic.
No, I literally laid in the bathtub for like 3 days of the honeymoon. I read Naked by David, because this was before smartphones. This was before you would have brought like your tablet.
Right, yeah.
And read Naked by David Sedaris probably 5 times.
Good book
That's
to read.
all I had to do.
I have to wonder what David Sedaris would think about that situation. He wouldn't be like, oh, you poor thing. He'd be like, oh, did you write about it? Like, did you write it down? Like, did you write it in a journal?
Yeah. And then my parents met us at the airport with antibiotics. I was in so much pain.
I cannot imagine. Like,
yeah. Oof. Here's how you prevent that. Thanks, Mom, for not telling me. You pee before and after the intercourse. You flush it out.
Yes, thank you. Maybe she had to find out the hard way, so she wanted you to find out the hard way.
That's not really her style. I don't know
your mom
what
was a nurse.
Yeah,
like, I'm surprised she didn't.
I don't. Maybe she didn't struggle with them.
Probably not. Yes, like,
and that's why she didn't say anything.
Yeah. When I heard vacation, the first thing I came up with, like, is when I went to visit. But when I moved in with my grandparents, the vacations, like, they took me on like Mormon vacations, but then they would take us to, Grandma would take us on like day trips places. But then when I had friends that moved or friends that lived somewhere else, somehow, I don't know if they're like, take this kid off or we need a break, or like usually they would invite me and or the parents would invite my grandma and then to be like, she's like, you're going to Utah. I'm like, oh, are we all going? She's like, nope. Just you. And but that was the first vacation I went. She sent me to Utah to visit my friend Lynette, who I love so much. I was devastated when she moved away. She's like one of my favorite humans. And then I visited my other friend Stephanie in the mountains, kind of in Utah. Both prized gems. Love them. All the best people move away. Like, says a little something about,
well, I'm still here.
Meredith's still hanging around. Just kidding. But then the other time was when I was a bit older. I could already drive. But my friend Brianna, her family like lived a lot in Virginia Beach. Her dad used to be in the Navy, but then he worked for the Navy as a civilian. And so he lived there most of the time. And then they like would go back and forth, and because they had moved, and then he worked here in Illinois, here, but in Illinois, and then he had to go back. And so she went back, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But so they would, he just had like a tiny apartment that he stayed in when he was there, and they have like 7 kids, 6 or 7, 6. But then they would all come and visit, and it was so much fun. They're like, it's not as big as our house back in Illinois. And I'm like, I don't care. And it was still the most fun. Like,
That's
they are
amazing.
They're like one of the Mormon families I love, because there are some Mormon families who are just great people, but they don't take shit. Kimberly Johnson does not take any shit. And I love her so much. And so we would, that's when we find out Michael Jackson died, was when I was in Virginia Beach.
Really?
Yes. And then I because I'd never been to the ocean before that I could remember. Like, and so we went and I was taking pictures I had one of those orange flippable phones that you could open and close like this. It was like this long.
Yeah.
And I was taking a picture because I saw a dolphin and I was standing in the water, and sometimes my brain just jolts and I'm like, it's going like, don't drop it, but then it gets distracted and it's like, no, it's cool, drop the fuck out of that thing. And so I just dropped it and I was like,
yeah.
And so we went into the Verizon and I'm just like, and my family still makes fun of me for that.
Oh.
And the time that I put my phone on top of the car.
Oh, everyone's done that.
Oh, and I drove away. It was after a floor set at American Eagle. I was wiped out, tired. And it was like my first iPhone is brand new. But yeah, that was what I think. And then Brianna and I are like very, very similar people, both like heavy ADHD, both just like loud and obnoxious, just great. And so her mom dropped us off at Busch Gardens in Virginia, which is the coolest place. It is, in my opinion, like it is the closest thing you could get to Disney World. Like,
really,
it is like people are like, oh, it's like Six Flags. But you're like, it's like Six Flags, but it's not. It is like very immersive. It's awesome. I loved it. I was actually just thinking about it a couple weeks ago, and but we're like so similar that we would get in like arguments about stuff. And so we'd have to be walking. She was like, I'm not coming to get you guys until the end of the day because like Virginia Beach traffic, no joke.
Right.
And she's like, I'll be back at the end of the day for you guys. And when the park closes. And so we were just, and like we would just go through moments of like not talking to each other and like being pissed. And then we'd be fine. We'd go on a ride and we'd be like, wah! And we'd go crazy and then we'd be fine again. And it just happened all day.
Yeah. That's what being a teenager is. Like,
it was wild. It was wild. It was so funny because we just like, oh man. Yeah, we were just like, I'm like, that's, I when you were talking about your stories with your friend that you sat in the World War II tent or whatever and fought over the record player or whatever.
Yeah, the tape deck.
I was like, I wonder if I have any of those kind of like stories where I was just like petty for no reason. And I'm like, and as soon as I thought about it today, I was like,
oh, yeah.
I'm not better than Meredith.
Shoot.
Darn it. That was the deciding factor.
Yeah. My parents had a well, no, they still try to get to Gulf Shores. Mom probably won't make it again. But
you should have seen my face. I was like, I'm like waiting for her to realize.
Yeah. But what's so funny is it wasn't something they started until I was in high school, but then it meant that I couldn't go anywhere cool with friends on spring break. I was with them in Gulf Shores. And so one time I convinced them to invite my friend Emily with us. I think we were sophomores because we did have our license. We had our driver's license. And so it was too cold to swim. So we would literally take I don't know if it was Gulf Shores or if it was Pensacola Beach. Anyways, there was just only one little strip you could drive on without going on off of the whatever island. And so literally all we did was drive up and down that strip, tried to flirt with the boys that worked at Subway, got them in the car one night.
Local talent.
Nothing happened. Nothing. Other than just listening to Drops of Jupiter by Train over and over and over and over again. Desperately wanted something to happen with the boys from Subway. One had a real good butt cut. The other one was butt cut, like Devon Sawa butt cut.
Yeah. I just was like, I'm like, the cut of the butt? Like,
the cut
is that a reference to a Subway sandwich style that I'm aware of?
That butt was cut. No, his hair was parted down the middle like a butt crack. That's what I meant.
A real Italian.
Wherever you are, Subway boys from summer of 99.
Anytime someone's like, I wonder where you are now, I'm like,
yeah,
they're dead.
They're dead.
Don't get your hopes up. They're dead. Like when I creeped on that
that ex-boyfriend.
Not really an ex-boyfriend. Ex-crush. The tall boy. That you were like immediately triggered. Because she's like, find a man your own size. I can't. Those are women.
Junior high, the first day of junior high, first week of junior high, I asked out every guy that was taller than me. Every single one.
You cast a line.
I did. I was like, here they are. I would send a friend to them with my softball picture. Be like, you want to go out with her?
You just really had the market cornered on how to get a guy going. Like,
because you go to a new school. I went from a grade school where I was not hot shit because I had moved from Arthur, Illinois, half Amish, to Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. Went from one class of like 20 to 4 classes of 30 just in the grade school. All the cool girls were on the traveling soccer team and wore Umbros and Adidas stuff. And I still had cute matching fashionable outfits.
Right.
Like not sports clothes. And I looked... So I looked very out of place, and I was like, but come junior high, I just got to get through this year, and then I'm going to be so cool because there's going to be all these new kids. I was real quickly not cool again.
You're waiting for your Disney Channel original moment.
Yes, I was. I asked out the Hospelhorn twins. I asked out Joey Hunt. I asked out Brian Ott. Yeah.
Did you make your friends ask them out, or
yes,
did you? I did that once.
I hadn't even talked to these boys ever.
I did that once, kind of, in junior high, 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
And his name is Tyler, and he's now happily married. Him and his wife just had a baby like 6 months ago, I think, or something. And I was like, go ask him if he likes me, and which was dumb. Don't do that, because boys will not be honest with you.
I bet people don't do that anymore now with social media.
Yeah, social media. There's not as much of a barrier. Yeah, and then they're like, he said no, and I was like, well, screw it. And I didn't get sad. I just was like, well, he's got a bad haircut, and he's always wearing an Abercrombie and Fitch t-shirt, and he can't even play basketball. Did you see him try to make that free throw? He fouled out, like, awesome. And I was just going, and I was like, that's fine, I don't care. But then he turned into a good friend because we really bonded over music, and
that's great.
There may be a small seed of bitterness in my heart because, like, when we were like finishing high school, going into college, he's like, why did we ever talk about this? Like, where have you been? And I was like, I don't know. Let's go back to 7th grade, Tyler, and let's think about where I was. I was right there the whole time.
You snooze, you lose, buddy.
Yeah.
And you
moving
snoozed.
on. I didn't become really cool.
You snossed and lost.